Okay, so the Wolves defence was kind of an area of the squad which kind of got a lot of focus over the transfer window from fans, and I think most people expected more to come in from when we signed Jesse Mascara at the start of the window. And going into season, I think it had a lot of people concerned. And if you look at our opening results, no clean sheets, but I don't think that's a fair reflection on the overall squad, right? Obviously, the personnel is basically the same, and last season we had the ninth worst goals against tally in the league, which isn't terrible, obviously. It's kind of just mid-table, right? It was better than our actual position of 13th. But when you consider, the squad hasn't really improved, and we're trying to play a bit of, a more attacking style of football, there is kind of a concern there that maybe the defence won't adapt. Um, Obviously, we've conceded 3 goals, as I said earlier, but expected goals against actually has that at 3 as well. So we have deserved to concede 3 goals, albeit against pretty good opposition. But considering the defence is basically the same defence from last season, I think it's quite promising. If you look at some of the kind of interesting metrics about defence, interesting in inverted commas, but they're pretty positive. If you look at, so for example, this stat is the amount of tackles against someone that dribbles you and how successful they are, right? So basically just one-on-one defending. Wolves have actually got the best tackle rate, 50%, which is really good. Like, Man United are on 25 for context at the bottom there. So Wolves are clearly winning their one-on-one duels, right? That might not last for the whole season, but I think that's a positive sign. In terms of blocks per 90, again, Wolves have got the second lowest along with Man City. Now, that doesn't mean anything when it comes to how good you're defending, but it shows a stylistic shift, right? I can't remember the exact number, but I know under Nuno we were a lot higher. And to me, this shows that, we are ball dominant and we're not just sitting behind the ball. Like, when you look at some of the squads that have high block numbers, it's Tottenham under Nuno and Burnley and Palace and Arteta's Arsenal. It's kind of squads that are kind of playing a low block. So the fact that Wolves are only having to block eight shots per 90, or sorry, 8 shots over the whole season. Actually, no, it's per 90, sorry. Is it? Actually, no, yeah, sorry. So we've only had to block 8 shots this whole season. To me, that shows a good stylistic shift from Bruno Lage, and that it's kind of, it's kind of working. We're kind of starting to look more like a top half side than we did last season. In terms of pressures from the defence, anyway, or I guess from the overall squad, but the defence is the main part, right? We're not actually pressing as much as I think a lot of people thought we would have. We're kind of mid-table for pressures, but the good thing about that is when we are pressing, we're doing it pretty well. So, in terms of actual successful pressures, we're fifth, whereas I think we're ninth, or is that, yeah, 10th for actual pressures, right? And as a percentage, we're third, or fourth, sorry, behind Brentford, Brighton, and Man City. So we're not pressing loads, but when we are doing it, we're winning them, right? Which to me that says decent coaching, right? And a lot of those are in the midfield, whereas in the defensive third and the attacking third they're a bit lower. So to me that suggests we're winning midfield battles, but that's not really relevant to the defence. And when you look at the amount of tackles won, and to get the ball, if you look at the top, the top 25 players in the Premier League, 3 of them are Wolves players. Again, that's pretty good. There aren't any other clubs really apart from Leeds that can bolster that, right? Obviously, 2 of them are central midfielders, and the other one's Nelson Semedo. But I think it just shows that the defence is it's a bit more on the front foot. It's pressing in the right way, and we're kind of playing a higher line, right? And obviously, we've played against good sides, so you'd kind of expect these numbers to get better when we're playing against worse sides. And we've conceded 3 goals in 3 games against pretty good sides. If that goes across for the whole season, that's 38 goals conceded. If you look at the Premier League table from last season, 38 goals is pretty good. I'm not saying that will last over the whole season, right? But that would have been the third best in the Premier League. So I think although the defence, it's concerning that we haven't signed anyone. I think everyone would have loved Sven Botman or James Tarkowski or whatever. The defence, what Bruno Lage has to work with, he's getting the best out of it. We're not playing a low block anymore. We're not just throwing bodies at shots, like Connor Cody did loads last season, where he was just, it just felt like it was like last-ditch defending. We're a bit more on the front foot. We're pressing a bit more as a unit, as a defensive unit. And when we are doing it, we're doing it properly. And to me, these are all positive signs, especially considering we're playing against, Tottenham, Leicester, and Man United. They're all pretty ball-dominant sides. And I did a video on Jose Sarr yesterday. All his numbers are pretty good as well. Obviously, he's a part of the defence, right? So far, goalkeeper and defence are all performing to a pretty good level against good sides. And obviously, that might change a bit when we play low block sides. The defence might be higher up and maybe get caught out, in those high lines. Like, was it Celta? Yeah, that Celta Vigo game where we kept getting done with long balls. Or was it? No, it was the Real Betis game, wasn't it? Where we kept getting done with long balls. That's a bit of a concern. Maybe that will happen when we kind of have to play higher up the pitch. But that's kind of an if but or maybe, right? We won't be playing against as good players. So I think overall, all the stats suggest the defence, although we kind of want to see it improved in the long term and kind of get a bit younger, because the defence is starting to age at centre back. And it's a lot of pressure on Jurson Mosquera to kind of just adapt to the Premier League. But although we all wanted a signing at centre back, I think overall the defence is performing to a pretty good level, and I don't think Wolves fans should be too concerned yet, even though we haven't kept a clean sheet. That's just what I think. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, like the video. You can check out I did a similar video on this about Jose Sarr, if that's of interest. Yeah, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and yeah, peace.